Welcome to Stop Dating Losers. Get your free relationship advice and so much more on my website. Subscribe and share this video with everyone you know. Let us go ahead and begin, shall we? All right. First comment on the chopping block. Healthy men communicate. They don't shut down, stonewall, or punish you with silence. Absolutely. Very perfectly stated, because men get upset when the woman gives them the silent treatment. So what are men doing these days? Going silent, just like those toxic women, those weak women who give the silent treatment. And men who are afraid to open up about their emotions and their thoughts, or to talk about relationships in general with anybody, those are weak men who are not fit for any length of relationship. Long-term, short-term, they're not good candidates at all. In fact, they are the worst. They're part of the worst possible candidate that you can imagine, because the woman is going to jump into a relationship with such a man, and she's going to scratch her head and feel uneasy and doubt constantly, nervous, anxious, worried, because her partner just doesn't want to open up about his feelings. And these idiots, they always say, these weak men who fail and have very extremely poor communication, they always say, well, I'm a man of few words. That means you are weak. You're a person who is not worthy to be called a man, because a man expresses himself. I'm not saying you have to shout at the top of the mountaintops and be the loudest one in the room. No, you don't. But you better communicate with your partner, because it's extremely stupid to sit there and pretend that she's going to read your mind, or that she's supposed to know what you're thinking. Doesn't that remind you of something very classical? It's very classic. It's very cliche. The toxic women who play the same game. Don't you see what's going on here? Toxic women expect you to read their mind. And then they'll shout at you. They'll say, well, you should have known that. You should have done it without me having to ask you. Well, then why do toxic men do the same thing? And a lot of people argue that, no, they're not toxic. They're just quiet. You mean they're weak, and they're placing doubt in their partner's mind, and they're ruining the relationship. That's what you really mean. And that's toxic behavior. Because when you lack communication skills, you have no business being in a relationship, a serious committed relationship. Because you don't know how to open up. Something's terribly wrong with you, psychologically most likely, and you need to go get that taken care of. All these weaklings who adopt I'm a man of few words nonsense, they need therapy. Because there's nothing cool about it, being so quiet. All you're doing is giving your partner doubt and worry, needless worry. I've seen this happen. And it's horrific, because the woman's there wondering, well, I don't know what to say. I hope he doesn't, what if he's going to, they're in constant anxiety. And the guy's there saying, yeah, I'm just so cool because I want her to figure it out. It's absurd. It's extremely immature, and it doesn't belong in a relationship. In fact, I would actually consider it abusive behavior, because neglect is abusive behavior, and staying silent is a form of neglect. People don't realize this. It is a form of abuse, because when you said, yes, I will love you to your partner, that's not love. By closing up like a clamshell, by crawling into your little tortoise shell, that's cowardice. And that's not communication. That's a poor communicator. So a man of a few words is absolute garbage. You're supposed to express yourself. That's how you know how to communicate, is when you can express yourself effectively, efficiently, and normally. It's extremely abnormal to not communicate enough with your partner. And I really want to stress that point. There is nothing special about a man of few words. In fact, it's a complete opposite. You're a clown if you don't speak up enough with your partner, if you don't communicate with your partner. That means that you are lousy at communication and you don't really deserve to be called a real man. It doesn't matter how hard you work at work, none of that. What happens at home when you neglect your partner that way, staying quiet and being all scared to communicate with your partner, you're wasting her time and her precious life. That's all you're doing. Because obviously your life doesn't mean anything to you as a quiet, weak man who's afraid to talk about his thoughts and emotions with his partner. All right, so your life is a waste of time. We got it. But don't waste her precious life. I had to be extremely adamant about that because it's an absolute circus with men who think, I'm a man of few words. Okay, congratulations on being a complete bag of trash. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to the next comment. Got a little bit of a lengthy one here. Hot take. Dating red flags edition. Wow. Describes themselves as chill. Calls every woman females. Well, there are women who don't deserve to be called women. I always refer to them as females. Now, I can't do that constantly because it gets exhausting, but when I really want to emphasize it, I will call them senseless, toxic females who don't deserve to be called real women. Flirts by negging. Okay, if you don't know, I know there's nagging. That's different than negging. For those who don't know, negging is insulting in a sort of neutral way. You kind of sneak in personal insults or putting down the person that you're communicating with. If you want to know more examples, sure, go ahead and go look it up. But negging it depends on personalities and how you joke around, but generally it should be avoided. It's okay if you guys are joking, but it really should be avoided. So flirts by negging. Well, that's not really flirtatious behavior. I don't see how you can neg and flirt at the same time. Gotta disagree with that. I'm a good guy, or not like other girls. Okay, but what if you are a good guy? That's not a red flag by saying you're a good guy. Or if she says I'm not like other women, that's not a red flag. Okay, so far, there's nothing wrong with calling yourself chill either. I think this is going to be an exaggerated red flags list. A completely ridiculous one at that. Uses astrology to excuse behavior. Okay, I can agree with that. For example, there's the Sagittarius astrological sign, and she's supposed to be very blunt. Just say what's on her mind, meaning you can be rude at any time. You can just be rude. And you'd be like, well, I'm a Sagittarius, so that's just the way I am. No. That's called being rude and disrespectful. You can't do that. You can't hide behind your astrological sign and say, well, that's the way I'm supposed to be. See, it's universally accepted. And it's sad because I see this online. A lot of posts with artistic, flair, and they'll have fancy words saying, yeah, we Sagittariuses, we always tell the truth, and that's okay, but just don't be rude about it. You got to have some basic levels of consideration for who you're talking to, especially if it's a loved one. You can't just be acting like that because an astrological sign says so. So yes, I do agree with that red flag. And there are other examples with other horoscope signs, with astrology, that you can't hide behind either. Every sign has its good and its bad, but you have to just take the good from it and work on yourself if you find yourself exhibiting such bad behavior. Don't accept it just because, well, that's just my astrological sign. Like, I myself as a Leo, I'm supposed to be selfish, always about myself, but I'm the opposite. I'm selfless, and I love to help other people. So it's not all about me. I don't have a vanity problem. And that's just something that every person has to choose to be by choice, your attitude in this life and what you want to be. So, yeah, don't hide behind an astrological sign. That's pathetic. Claims to be healed. Well, what if you are healed? What's wrong with that? Why is that a red flag? I'm an empath, but no emotional boundaries. Okay, well, that's debatable too, because what if you are an empath? I mean, you know, you can't hide behind labels too. You're not actually this or that. If you're a passionate person, okay, but when you hide behind something that identifies you with just one word, like, okay, I'm a man, you're a woman, that's fine. But an empath is sort of, well, this is the way I behave all the time. No, there is no blanket label that applies constantly 24/7. Emotional boundaries, that requires a lot of detail. A lot of detail. It depends on preferences. What offends who? You guys got to talk that out. So I don't see how that's a red flag. Doesn't like labels. I don't like labels. But if it's a good label, that's fine. But you shouldn't obsess with the label either. That's another one that's very vague. I don't do drama. Okay, that might be a red flag because a lot of people consider talking things out to be drama. Like the quiet men out there who are too scared to talk about things that are very important because they consider it drama. Or the women who do the same thing. They give you the cold shoulder. They're like, well, that's just a bunch of drama. No, it's actually an important subject that we need to discuss, especially if you guys are in a working relationship where you're trying to make it work. It isn't drama. And drama is kind of like a short word for emotional content. You guys have to discuss because it means something. It pulls out certain emotions, so they are important. How you feel. Working on myself. No actual examples how. Well, I mean, that depends. That's on a case-by-case basis. It's good that somebody says that they're working on themselves. I mean, they will tell you an example. I mean, because why else would they say it? That's another vague one. Protecting my peace, but really avoiding accountability. I mean, what does that even mean? Accountability for what exactly? Protecting my peace? How do you protect your peace? Under what case? That's another vague. This is a very vague list. I'm just brutally honest. Yes, that could be offensive, as we discussed before with the astrological sign, to excuse rude behavior. That's disrespectful. Yeah, brutally honest is another. It's another carbon copy of that example. You can't be rude and say, "Well, I'm just brutally honest," whether it's because of your horoscope or not. No, no, you have to be a kind, loving human being whenever possible. You can be brutally honest, but only when your partner asks you to be brutally honest. But you don't have to be brutal, just be honest. But that's another part of being honest. Do so in a kind, caring way. How would you like to be told something? And if you answer, well, I don't mind if somebody's brutally honest with me in a disrespectful tone, because I don't consider that disrespect. Well, then that's you. But that's not everybody else, understand? So you can't be like, well, I could take it, so that's why I can dish it. No, that's not how life works. That's not how it works. That's called being dangerous, because you could come off disrespectful to somebody who doesn't accept things the way you accept them. You have to communicate about these things. Twin flame anything. Well, I don't agree with twin flames. I agree with soulmates, the idea of soulmates, but I disagree with a lot of the way that word is interpreted, because it's a soulmate, the way I define it, because I don't care about twin flames. That makes absolutely no sense to me. That's purely fictional in my humble opinion. But I do agree with soulmates on my definition, because when you get to know somebody so much and you guys fall in love, true love together, then you bond, you mate the souls together. You can't prove it, but you feel it. Like we have a soul connection is deeper than just the mind and the heart and the body. I feel like our souls are connected. I think that position is earned. You have to earn that position, that state of being. Soul mates, the mating of the souls. Like the pinnacle, the highest you can achieve in a lifelong relationship. But that's my personal definition. Could I do without the definition? Sure. Just lifelong soulmates. Okay, let's just say we're truly in love. We have true love together and we're lifelong partners. I could do without the word soulmates. But if I had to incorporate it, that's the way I would say it. So, but it's not a red flag. The twin flames thing is not necessarily a red flag for me. It just makes me cringe. And I would explain why. Let's go with the flow. Why a triple red flag with that one? What's wrong with going for the, it's just anything on the fly. Like, it's okay to improvise. I mean, if they're being extremely lazy with their plans, well, then something might need to improve. But going with the flow, sometimes, most of the time, you have to go with the flow. What do you feel like doing? What do you feel like talking about? You guys have to communicate. But just going with the flow can be very mediocre, very just completely boring after a while if you just go with the flow all the time. No, most of the time you do, but you always work on things to improve if that's the case. Okay, so then this person says, let's be real. Anything can look like a red flag out of context. Sure. The real sign isn't a line, they say. It's the pattern that repeats. I'm not sure what a line, I'm not sure what you mean by that. Pay attention to how your body feels around them. Yes. Whether their words match their actions. Yes. What they choose when it matters. Okay. That's kind of a little confusing there. How they show up over time. Okay, sure. I mean, but that's not the only things you should be paying attention to. There's a lot more you should be paying attention to. But okay, let's take it at face value. No problems. Your nervous system will always tell you the truth before your brain does. Okay, that's a little scientific, but okay. Trust the slow reveal. True red flags are the ones that show themselves in patterns of behavior. No, you're too obsessed with the patterns. You're so close to the tree you can't even see the forest. A red flag is a red flag. You're putting too much thought into it, and that's why the list is, oh my goodness, pretty much ridiculous, but it's okay. It's okay. People try to give advice the best they can, and sometimes not the best they can. And it just seems like just one big confusion fest. All right. So next comment here. Why is it that once marriage happens, sex becomes a chore? Well, because they're not really in love, are they? When you're truly in love with your partner, it's not a chore. It's a pleasure. So this is a huge, speaking of red flags, this is about the size of the Chinese flag. A huge red flag. When sex, even if they openly state so, like a sexless marriage, or if they just say, well, honey, I feel like, complaining about sex, it's okay to say I don't feel like it. There's nothing wrong with that. Obviously, that should be obvious, but, unfortunately, that's not so obvious for a lot of people out there. They say, well, I want sex and I want it now. Well, it doesn't work like that. It's called consent. Yes, even after you get married, consent is always the main priority here, okay? Because how do you feel? The last thing you want to do is make love to your partner when they're not into it. That's horrible. That's extremely selfish and inconsiderate. Now, if they're constantly not into it, always coming up with excuses, then something's wrong. It's not that they have an obligation to have sex with you. It just means that something's wrong, isn't it? Maybe physically, mentally, or emotionally. Or maybe just with the relationship itself. So something's causing that. And that's not healthy to carry on like that. So it needs to be addressed. It needs to be solved. Or you're just not right for each other. You're sexually incompatible. With frequency, with the type of sex that you want, with the variety. If you're limiting yourself sexually, that could be a huge problem. If you're not adventurous, if you're not always trying to be sexual one way or another, yes, that is a big problem. So somebody who says it's a chore is somebody who is borderline almost KO'd in this life, almost about to throw in the towel. Marriage is a simple business transaction. Oh boy. The man takes care of his woman for the rest of her life, and in return, the woman listens to him, respects him, gives him children, and has a clean past being with 0 guys. No. I don't know who said that, but that's not accurate, nor is it correct. It's perfectly fine if she's been with several guys. Not with 100, obviously, but everybody has their limit according to body count, right? That's the deal. Well, it's not supposed to be a business transaction or a deal. It's supposed to be a sign of okay, I'm proving my love for my partner by saying, let's get married. That's the ideal thing to do. If you say, you know what, I want to be with you forever. It's not a business transaction. If you feel like it's a business transaction or it's some type of deal, then you're getting married to the wrong person. Or you probably should never get married at all and just be miserable forever. Because you're scared. And you don't know who to trust or how to trust. And if you've been burned before because you trust somebody and they betrayed you, you have to move on. You got to get over it. Because not everybody is the same. And you're not playing Russian roulette out there by going with the next girl in line. No, you need to pay attention or the next man in line. Man or woman, doesn't matter. It's not a transaction and it's not a deal. But women come around saying they don't listen to men, they don't want kids, and they've been with loads of guys. Well, who's going to marry you? And that's why marriage is finished. Okay, number one, marriage is not finished, okay? Who even says that? Marriage is finished for you, apparently. Speak for yourself. But there's lots of happily married couples out there. And why are you saying who's going to marry you? Let's go ahead and look at that sentence. It seems to be the gist of this. But women come around saying they don't listen to men, they don't want kids, and they've been with loads of guys. That's not even an accurate, that's not an accurate statement. It doesn't make any sense at all. I mean, if you're talking about not even with toxic women, I suppose in one way you could slice that up and apply it. But why even do that? This is a lot of words right here for somebody who's kind of sort of upset, I imagine, about marriage, the idea of marriage. It's just garbage. This doesn't teach anything. Deal, business transaction, marriage is finished. It doesn't say anything. It's absolutely useless. It's just somebody who's just upset trying to spit anything out there in social media and see if it sticks. All right, last comment of the show. The loudest women. Okay, this is going to be grammatically a dumpster fire here. I'm just going to read it as they wrote it. The loudest women, usually dumb. That's a dumb sentence. They didn't think before talking. They use their emotion to talk. Intelligent women, usually the most quiet one. This is like caveman talk, isn't it? They listen, they think, then they talk. All right, it doesn't look like you're doing much thinking on your own there, buddy. Not a lot of intelligence coming through with this one. Okay, let's slice this up. The loudest, I'm going to correct him. The loudest woman is usually dumb. Usually? And why are they dumb? Just because they're being loud? Well, loud to you. Now, if they're truly loud, I wouldn't say they're dumb. They're just loud, right? It all depends. What are they saying? How are they saying it? In what context? What surrounding? What situation? What setting, right? They didn't think before. They don't think before talking. Okay. So you're saying loud women don't think before talking. Okay, so something upset this person, this guy, and he's upset. So he's just venting out his anger online for pretty much a useless reason because nobody really cares. They use their emotions to talk, okay? I'm using emotion right now, positive emotion. What's wrong with that? And I might be loud to you because you probably prefer people to whisper to you when they speak and to be a man of few words. Well, not with me, buddy. I'm not going to talk 24/7 because I tend to make these shows as short as possible. But everybody has their threshold. Anybody can say anybody's annoying, loud, uses too much emotion. You can't control everybody, buddy. Intelligent women usually are the most quiet ones? No, they're not. There's a lot of psychotic and toxic women out there who are women of few words. Just like the men. The men of few words. They could be the most dangerous people you'll ever meet. Trust me on that. You can't judge somebody based off of how much they talk, how loud they talk. Maybe how loud they talk and what they say, because that's a clue. But the silent ones, you better be very careful with them. Because they're weak, number one, because they're scared to speak. And that's not normal. Normal is expressing yourself. Humans are creatures of expression. It's not normal when you stay quiet, whether you're a man or a woman. And it doesn't mean you're intelligent, because it takes no effort to stay quiet. So how can you call people who stay quiet intelligent? If they're being observational, if they're observing, then okay, they're observing something. But there's a lot of dumb people who stay quiet and they're just observing things and they don't say anything. You can't say that type of logic is heavily flawed. And you're saying usually are the most quiet ones. But why the most quiet ones? It's very curious there. It's very flawed. They listen, they think, then they talk. Okay? So you want somebody to listen first and think about what they're going to say and then say it. That's pretty natural. That's what everybody does when they have basic human conversations. I mean, it's just another useless comment, I swear. Like, where do we get these guys? You know, it sounds like he didn't do much thinking at all. And I mean, what he's saying is just pretty much useless. So that's all I'm going to do is just chop that one up, you know, and just pretty much toss it in the shredder. It belongs in the in the recycle bin. Just shred it up. There's nothing useful with that comment. All right. So if you made it this far, congratulations. That means it's time to become a free member on my website. You'll get free relationship advice and so much more. So much love to everybody. Take care.